The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience 2020 Northern Trust DraftKings picks and preview, each by a range. You want to jump to a range? You hit the description of the podcast or video, and you can find the time codes like you can for every other show. It's easy stuff. You shouldn't take this long to figure that out. And give your head a shake if you haven't figured that out. Yeah, but before you give your head a shake, or maybe even after you give your head a shake, smash the like button to the video. Tell me your favorite sleeper on DraftKings in the comment section of this video. And for the audio podcast listeners, I got some big ass for everyone out there listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or the new home on Anchor or Stitch or wherever it might be. Rate the show 5 stars. That'd be great. But also, if you hit the description of the video or podcast, you will find a link for the Mayo Media Network, the new YouTube channel where this video will begin to appear sometime within the next 2 weeks. So please go subscribe to that. If you just to help out the show, just help me out, go subscribe to it. Takes you like 2 seconds. All right. Thank you for that. Also, fantasynational.com/Mayo gets you 20% off the best stats and tool site in the biz. Most customizable searches, ownership projections, simulator, lineup generator. It's all there for you. There's no picks. You make your own picks. You just let the tools do the work for you. 20% off with fantasynational.com/Mayo. And the Listeners League still has spots in it. There's like 1,000 spots left. This is Tuesday, people. What are we doing here? This is usually filled by like Monday. I get that golf is coming to its conclusion, but let's fill the Listeners League, the PME Open. The link is in the description of this video or podcast for the 2020 Northern Trust. Joining me from DKNation.com, a regular on the show, it's DJ Jazzy Geoff Ulrich. What's happening?
Not much, Pat. I gave my head a shake this morning, and I'm just sitting here drowning in Jim Herman bucks this week, so everything's going great.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember you being out there, being the only one out there, being like, who's going to win this week? Jim Herman, 600-1. You got to take him.
Totally, that was me.
the shitty. I was going to say, the shitty part about Herman winning is that, like, everyone loses. Like, if Horschel won, I would have lost. But at least people would have won. And then with Herman, it just wasn't the case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if there are that many people on Billy Horschel. I'm sure there were definitely some people on Billy Horschel, more than Jim Herman. But it was, it was one of those weeks where, the timeline was very dry after the event ended. Except for Tour Picks, who obviously came through with the massive week. That was really cool to see. But other than that, not much going on.
Yeah, this happens once or twice a year when you get the out-of-nowhere winner. The biggest one I remember is when Ted Potter won at Pebble Beach, and he was like 0.1% owned or something insane like that. That the winning lineup all of a sudden doesn't need to have the winner in it, and the winning lineup did not have Jim Herman in it because no one played fucking Jim Herman. So some weeks you can skate by. I don't feel like this is going to be one of those weeks, though.
I hope not. I mean, a playoff event, maybe we'll get like the, I don't know, I'm just looking at the bottom here. Brian Gay is going to win. That would be about the equivalent. Don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, we had Adam Long comes to mind when long shot winners recently, but yeah, I don't think we'll be getting one of those weeks. So, someone at the top always wins these.
Just watch out when KH Lee ends up winning. And it's like, oh, good. This is fun. Either way, what were your initial impressions on the pricing for the Northern Trust at TPC Boston, par 71, over 7,300 yards, bent grass greens? We've seen this course a bunch of times over the years. It just didn't happen to be on the schedule in 2019. So the last time we saw it was 2018, and Bryson won that year. Back-to-back wins for Bryson.
Yeah, back-to-back playoff wins that year for Bryson. And that has happened quite a bit in the playoffs. So always something to take note of. Obviously, it's 3 playoff events instead of 4 now. So, I mean, when there was 4, you almost always have a player win twice. Billy Ho did it. Bryson did it. Probably someone else did it that I'm forgetting. But that was kind of a trend. The course is – I'm glad it's back in the rotation. I think it's a really cool course. It's got scoring holes. It's got tough holes. The par 5 coming in, it's almost like a must birdie. Big swings can happen. I think it's a really cool venue to watch from a player perspective. It kind of brings in different kind of styles. And then back to the question you actually asked me, which was my first impression of the pricing. I really want to play a lot of players in the 7K range. I mean, I'll tell you that. I'm not sure if that says it's too soft or anything, but it's basically, I would say maybe even a tad touch softer than what we saw at the WGC a couple events ago, the last kind of elite field, limited field event. I guess it's a bit of an limited field. It's 125 players, but I mean, the high 7Ks look like there's a lot of players in there that have value. And then I would say the one difference from the PGA for me is you don't have guys like Morikawa hanging out there at 8.5K anymore. So I think it's forcing you to make a bit better decision, a bit tougher decisions, I should say, in that range. The PGA Championship pricing, as it is for many majors, was definitely a lot softer on DraftKings. This one feels a little bit tighter in that range, so tougher decisions to make at the top, I think.
So if we go above the $10,000 threshold, there are 5 players up there this week. The most expensive being Justin Thomas. Not a big surprise on that one. He actually won here in 2017. So before Bryson, there was Justin Thomas. He's 11-3. Then Bryson, the defending champion at this course, 11-1. Rory's 10-8. He's won twice at this venue. Dustin has 3 consecutive top 20 finishes at TPC Boston, is at 10-4. And then my guy, Colin Morikawa. The guy can't not win. He's 10.2. From a betting perspective, I saw that there was drift on Morikawa. He was down to 25-1. So I bet that. And Rory and Morikawa are my 2 favorite guys from above $10,000 this week.
Yeah, I mean, why don't we talk about Morikawa first? Because I mean, I agree. It's like, what does this guy have to do to kind of get better in the DraftKings perspective and in the betting odds than Dustin Johnson? I mean, DJ obviously going up from 9K to 10.4. I mean, he deserved a bump, but Morikawa probably deserved a bit of a better bump. All he's done is destroy these players for the most part over the last few months. 10-2. Obviously, they're forcing you to make some decisions now, which is good. We're not getting like 9K Morikawa, which would have been an utter disaster. But I kind of agree with you in the odds. I mean, one of my first impressions this week was probably just bet Morikawa if he's over 20-1, because with the form he's in, it's very like 2015 Spiethian, where it just feels like this guy's so zoned in. He's performing so well under pressure that another win is probably coming. And at 25-1, like you said, man, I mean, that is a very good price. And for DraftKings, again, you talk about Rory and Morikawa. I'm definitely in on Morikawa at that price. I have no qualms playing him again. I mean, you can make like the major hangover argument, I guess, but I'm not even going to bother with that with a player who just, he won 4 weeks before the major. There's no hangover there for him. So the guy I'm really not interested in playing is definitely Dustin Johnson. I was not, that driver for Dustin Johnson just seems like it's not back to full strength. I mean, yeah, he's still hitting it pretty far, but spraying it so much in the final round of the PGA. That is a player, and again, with the price bump up $1,400, I get that he's got the pretty good record at TPC Boston, but he's not really that interested in playing Dustin Johnson. And I'm probably going to skip Rory as well. I mean, I'm just kind of through with Rory right now, especially in this range. Still killing it off the tee. Still can't put it together. Yeah, it's a great course, but much rather play Bryson.
Yeah, I can see, like, if you were betting a head-to-head, would you go Bryson over Rory? Probably at this point, especially with the way that Bryson's putting. And that just seems to be continuous week after week after week. I'm just thinking that you get a discount on Rory, and it does finally feel like people are stepping off on Rory just a little bit. It's not to say that he won't be owned, because he will be owned. He's going to be in the double digits for sure. But I don't think he'll be as owned as Thomas, Bryson, Morikawa, or John Rahm, who's an even $10,000, who, yeah. Take that number 1 player in the world. You get to be the 6th highest priced guy. Maybe that should just be the move. Like, oh yeah, John Rahm is 10,000. Just play John Rahm, as he would set up really well for this event too. But for whatever reason, I like the history that Rory has at this event. He tends to play well in the FedEx Cup playoffs overall. That if you can construct a team, like I like Morikawa objectively better. I'll use more Morikawa, but I think I will have teams where I start Rory, Morikawa, and then work my way down from there, because I don't love the 9Ks as much as others. Like I don't see a distinct difference between like the middle to the 8K to the upper 9s. And I think that there is a huge gap after John Rahm here.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree to some extent, because there's a couple players, I mean, mainly just Jason Day in the 9K range that I really want to play this week. I think Jason Day sets up very well for a win here. I mean, just again, we haven't quite seen Jason Day get completely hot fire putting, and the rest of his game just rounding into form. And again, TPC Boston, kind of and like just an all-around course. I mean, yeah, obviously we've seen Rory, JT, Bryson win here, big hitters off the tee, but those guys all had really good around the green game weeks. They putted well. They were just in good form. I mean, JT won coming off the major championship win, which maybe gives some more credence to a guy like Morikawa who's just playing well in all facets. But to me, Jason Day is really that guy right now too. Just kind of firing on all cylinders with his approach game, led the field in approaches at the PGA Championship. And we don't have to talk about how good his short game and putting can be. And it's been definitely rounding into Formula 8. So I definitely like Jason Day in that range. I'm going to play him chalk or not. But I kind of get your point about, the difference between the 9K range and the rest of the guys. I mean, for me at the top, it's going to probably be Bryson over JT. I like the putting with Bryson. I just feel like, again, the rest of his game is a bit sharper. And for this course, I'm okay going Bryson over JT because I really sort of fear that JT can bring just that bad putting week. Obviously, we're talking about like small differences here, but we got to make some decisions, right? So for me, that's kind of where I'm looking at the top guys. Do like Jason Day in that 9K range. And I think the player I'm definitely going to be out on in the 9K range is Xander Schauffele. So
Xander is $9,700. He's the most expensive 9K guy. Then it's Webb at 9.5, Day at 9.3, Cantlay at 9.2, Brooks at 9.1, and then an even $9,000. You got Patrick Reed. I got stars next to two of these guys. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to play Cantlay or not. But Cantlay is one of them, and then Reed. It seems to me like I wrote up Reed on Monday morning in my article, and I've seen basically everyone say bet Patrick Reed this week. He's 30-1. I've bet Patrick Reed at 30-1 this week. He's with T13, T9, and one of them is a PGA Championship. One is the Wyndham, but he had top 10s 3 consecutive years before 2018 at TPC Boston, and it does seem like the driving and irons are picking up. It's the putter that's letting him down. Now, if he can continue to hit these irons at the rate that he's doing right now and just turns back into Patrick Reed on the greens, he can win this for sure. He loves one of the Northern Trust, too. It's his event.
It's true, yeah. I mean, this is going for the trifecta this year. I got nothing bad to say about Patrick Reed, and you're right. I mean, he is starting to fire with his irons a little bit at the Wyndham, which is always scary because Reed, a big putting week with Reed is coming eventually, right? So I think the only argument I have against playing Patrick Reed is probably going to be chalky, like you said, if everyone is writing him up early in the week. But there's good reason for him to be. He's got a good course history here. He's got 3 top 6s or something in 3 of his last 4 starts at TPC Boston. So he's come close at this venue. I think it's a good venue for him. He's great around the greens. He can scramble around the drivable par 4s and stuff. So him having success here, it makes a ton of sense to me. My thing with Patrick Reed, and this is just a personal bias, I'm betting him big time at the U.S. Open this year. I love Patrick Reed at Winged Foot. So, I mean, I guess I'll drop that on the show, whatever. But I'm probably just going to keep fading him until we get to the U.S. Open for that reason and just hope that's where he puts it all together. I do still think he makes for a fine DraftKings play at 9K. Like you said, there are some players in the 8K range who, objectively speaking, probably you could just go down and make this the argument that a guy like Paul Casey playing very well at 8,500 or something like that, or even just going out at Tiger and saving money, probably better like pure DraftKings values, sure. But for me, going down in this low 9K range off of Schauffele, and that's kind of the reason I don't really like Schauffele this week. He just feels overpriced. You can go to Reed, you can go to even Cantlay. Obviously, I like Day, but those Cantlay, Reed, and even make the argument Webb Simpson, like those guys should be priced around the same as Schauffele for what he's done. Schauffele's still getting kind of like that. He's just been so consistent. I guess the price just hasn't come down. But to go up $300 to Rahm or to just go down to Reed, it just makes too much sense for me. And Schauffele always garners some ownership. He's a very popular DraftKings player, so it's not like I think he's going to be 5% owned at 9,700. I think he'll still be one of the more popular plays. So that's kind of why I'm getting to the fading Schauffele argument this week. Completely fine with Reed. Just might be an ownership fade for me.
Does seem like Day could be the most popular play on this slate, which is kind of crazy to think about where Day was at like 3 months ago. Yeah. But he comes in with the best recent form of any player, just top 10. It looks like he's getting really close to that win. I'm with you. I think that's the ownership fade that I'm going to make just because I like other guys equivalent or even maybe a little bit better in the 9K. There are 2 guys, though, that just seemingly no one wants a part of. Webb is one of them, and Brooks is one of them. Webb's won here before. Like you get like 7% Webb. Like it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it kind of goes to I like Webb as a tournament pivot as well, and I definitely play Webb over Brooks at this point. And I think it kind of goes to some of the narrative around the course with Webb. Yeah, TPC Boston, definitely. Like, it's a little bit of a driver heavy course for sure. The average driving distance is bigger than the tour average, but at the same time, it's not like we haven't seen the shorter hitters and the guys like Webb do well here. Chris Kirk won here too, along with Webb Simpson, like in the last decade. So you have to putt here. Like, you have to sink your putts. You look at the last few winners, they've all gained massive strokes on the greens and around the greens too. Have to have good scrambling weeks. It's just so happened that those bombers, obviously like Rory, Bryce, and JT, when they're firing in that facet of their game, they're probably going to win anyways. So they've come in here in good form. And if a guy like that comes in here in good form, he's probably going to win, right? Which is kind of why I like Bryson, because I do think he's in really good form. But Webb is absolutely fine, in my opinion. I think, again, I brought up him compared to Schauffele. I think that's a good pivot going down to Webb. Definitely agree that you'll get lower ownership there. And, again, just on day, we have seen the chalky players like win a lot lately. So maybe that's the argument for him. But I agree. I mean, the ownership on day will get up there. Obviously, you can't fade and play everyone, but that's something to watch out for as the week goes on.
8K guys, there's a bunch of them now. So along with those lower $9,000 players on DraftKings, I think these guys are kind of in that bucket as well. You got Berger, Finau, Tiger, Hideki, Casey, who you mentioned, Scott playing his second event since the restart, Fleetwood, Vic, Big Dick Vic, Scotty Scheffler, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Hatton, and Rose. I never really play Tony Finau all that often, but it feels like a lot of people are just going to be playing Berger. Not to say, again, that Finau won't be owned, because he will. He's always owned. But I do like this setup for him a lot. So I'm going to play Finau, I'm going to play Hideki, and I'm going to play Hatton at $8,000.
Yeah, I am starting to see Berger get up there. It's a little surprising, to be honest. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. He's been so consistent. He's basically, he's American Jason Day at this point. They just top 10 like every event. He's obviously in contention at the PGA Championship too. And his price really, you can make the argument that like he should easily be around or above Cantlay right now. So I definitely will have some exposure to Tony Finau as well. I've kind of gone since the start of the week, I've gone very back and forth on Tony Finau and stuff. It just, is this going to be the spot? No. Why are you playing Tony Finau, Jeff? Like he's not going to fucking win. Why are you betting Tony Finau? He's not going to fucking win. But I bet Tony Finau. I really feel like the changes that he's made, very similar to Jason Day. It's good. It's helpful. He's got his swing coach on the bag now. Apparently, he's looked very good just managing the course. I don't think he did anything wrong at the PGA Championship not to win, except hit a pin too hard with one of his chips. It didn't sink, or he could have done almost the same thing as Morikawa did coming down the stretch. So got a little bit of unlucky there at the PGA. I do feel like this guy has a big win coming at some point. He's just too good. And realistically, just from a DraftKings perspective, who cares if he wins? If he just keeps top five and making a ton of birdies at 8,800, that is really all you need. So if he's going to be even slightly lesser owned than Berger, I'll definitely play him on DraftKings. I think, Tiger and Matsuyama, I've got written down here for Tiger, really needs to get the putter firing this week. And I'm not confident that that's necessarily going to happen. Obviously, we want it to happen. He's like 40-1 in the odds, which is really interesting. But I'm probably okay just fading him for one more week. I played him at the PGA because he got really low ownership on him and kind of ended up regretting it because I could have just gone down to Colin Morikawa more.
So the four guys in this area, besides Tiger, who looks like he's going to come in sub 10% once again, no one's using, legit, no one is using Fleetwood at $8,300. Yeah. Fitzpatrick, he's on the outs, and no one's using Justin Rose. I will use Justin Rose, and spoiler alert, Jeff, I'm going back to the well. I bet Justin Rose at 66-1 last night.
This is when you have to bet Justin Rose. Everyone, we got 4 cuts, missed cuts, and the T9 at the PGA. This is when you got to hop on Justin Rose, in my opinion. And I don't mind. I'm not going to bet him. I'm not that crazy. But playing him at 8K for DraftKings, I might get me a part of that. Definitely just seems to be playing like the low sentiment on Justin Rose when everyone's sick of him. And then when it's high sentiment, you just get off that train. You just jump off the boat and watch it go down from the sidelines. But, what a crazy stretch for Justin Rose. Just looks amazing for a couple events. Misses 3 cuts in a row somehow. I don't know when the last time Justin Rose missed 3 cuts in a row prior to this hiatus restart thing, and then almost wins the PGA. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Justin Rose, to be honest, but definitely at 8K. I mean, this is, it's just kind of like what I wrote at Justin Rose is just like a pedigree value. He's good. He's not he's obviously not that far off from his best form, considering he was almost in contention late at the PGA. I mean, it's fine to jump on him at 8K. I'm not touching Tommy Fleetwood after he sunk my Wyndham lineups. I had a 6 of 6 last week, Pat, that shot like 15 over par on the weekend. So that was a real
let me ask you, who was in that lineup? Because I had a few. I looked on Sunday, like guys were going low on Sunday. I looked at like the 1 6 of 6 that I had. It had like Landry, List, Munoz, Fleetwood. I was like, oh my God, like everyone else on the course is making a ton of birdies and you guys are fucking all you can do is make bogey. Like, what is going on here?
I am glad that we can reminisce about this. It was one of the craziest Sundays. I mean, it's the Wyndham, right? So you expect like worst case scenario players are going like even par. No, Fleetwood, List, Rogers, and someone else in there as well. I know there's at least one more player. And then there's Harris English shot like one under, right? So and I think I even had Redmond in there, and I went from like, top 10% lineup to basically like, well out of the catch. So sweet week. I'm not playing Tommy Fleetwood. I do not know what's going on with his ball striking. Clearly he needs a little more competitive practice or something, but I'm sure he'll turn around. Just I'm not going there.
I just did the legwork on Justin Rose. My database on fantasynational.com/Mayo, if you want 20% off, goes back to 2012, and he has never missed 3 cuts in a row before he just did.
That sounds about right. I mean, I mean, obviously we've been doing this for a while, Pat, and I do not recall Justin Rose ever going through that bad a stretch from missed cuts. He's obviously had bad stretches of golf, but yeah, so not surprising to hear. He's got really good bent grass putting stats. He's got a really good record at TPC Boston. He's runner-up, solo run-up the year Bryson won. So it could easily turn around again. Wouldn't shock me in the least. Like I said, I definitely do not mind in this range. I probably even prefer going to him over. I shouldn't say prefer, but for GPPs, you'll get low ownership. I was going to say prefer over Sheffield and Hatton, but I mean, just from a pure like player standpoint, I mean, I don't know if I can make that argument, but low ownership for sure. So.
Hey, I much prefer Hatton, and of the low owned guys, Justin Rose is going to, like he said, he was runner up to Bryson in 2018. He was T10 in 2017 when Justin Thomas won at TPC Boston. He's just trading bad rounds for good rounds right now. So. Yeah. I mean, it was a bad round 1 at the Wyndham, pretty good round 2 at the Wyndham. Now, the Wyndham is a completely different beast than what they're going to see this week at TPC Boston. But, you give me a Rose at 4% ownership. I don't need, if I play 20 lineups, I can use him in 3. And then I'm way over the field. I have a bet on him to win. I believe in him for unknown reasons, but I'm just going to go back to the well. And of all of the low-owned guys in this range, I think like where you get the discount on the price, like I prefer him to Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick could go and put the lights out. That can always happen, but I just don't really like the stature of his game right now. When I think about like what ideally fits TPC Boston, you need to have a bit of power and hit some fairways and smash your long irons. Like there's a reason he's played well here. There's a reason Casey has played well here. There's a reason Stenson has won here. There's a reason I love Morikawa this week because that's what he does. That I just really think that that's going to be the path you want to follow.
Absolutely. All those guys, obviously great ball strikers. And again, I mean, you've had some weird winners. I guess you could say Ricky was a bit of a weird winner here, but he's a guy who can get in line with his irons. I mean, he's sitting there at 7,900. I'm probably not going to go there, but you should get a really tiny ownership on Ricky Fowler, which is crazy because he's under 8K. He'll still get some ownership because he's Ricky, but again, another ownership argument you can make if you're just sick of Justin Rose. I don't hate it. I mean, just because Fowler can get so hot with his putter as well. He's another player with great bent grass putting splits. I think the player I kind of prefer in this range is probably Billy Horschel.
Whew.
Which
$7,900 on Horschel. Like this upper sevens is filled with a lot of name value, but like me, I think everyone's just going to use Matthew Wolff.
Yeah, and which is weird. I know I talked about this yesterday too. It's going to be interesting to see if this is the week where like everyone jumps on Wolff. It definitely might be. I mean, he obviously just did the primetime thing where he lit it up on a Sunday at a major, kind of similar to what we've seen with Fleetwood in the past. At a U.S. Open or something. And that's kind of gotten him to be one of these popular players where everyone wanted to play him for a bit. I wonder if this is like the coming out party for Matthew Wolff, just in terms of DFS ownership. It certainly could be. And again, I kind of like Horschel, but again, it involves him being lower owned than Matthew Wolff. Horschel, obviously a guy who lit it up last week. I think, the state of his game looks pretty good. He looked good out there on Sunday. He had the tight shirt rocking and stuff like that. So maybe I'm just getting suckered in on Billy Horschel, but he's obviously a playoff performer and a player who can get hot with his putter and around the green game as well. So I don't think Horschel's going to be high owned in this section either, because there's so many big names around here. So a player who kind of popped off for me anyways at first look. I will say this. I kind of am okay fading all the guys from between like 79 to 78, because there's a ton of players between like 75, 77 that have a lot of interest for me.
Let me guess. Louis Oosthuizen.
I mean, if you're going to bring him up, we can talk about him a bit. I mean, Louis is interesting this week.
How about this? Hot Fire, best rapper of all time. 5 of the best rappers of all time. Hot Fire, Dylan Fratelli. Plus 170. Plus 170, low South African over Louis.
Oh, I don't know about that, Pat. You don't want to take Louis at these elite. You don't want to fade Louis at these elite fields like WGC playoff type events, man. This is where he makes his bread. This is where he just plans in those top 10s and gets all his world ranking points and somehow stays above, inside the top 30 of the world rankings without getting a win for like 5 years. So I don't know if I do that, but Dylan is definitely playing well. A guy in the low 7K you can play. Look, Louis gained strokes everywhere at the PGA Championship and lost 3 strokes putting and still came like T33. He's actually playing well. So 7,500. He will definitely be mixed inside my player pool. No shock there. May have even bet him at 100 to 1. Not going to say yes or no, but obviously yes. But I don't know. What's your feelings on your guy in this range? Because I really like Siwoo Kim this week.
I think I might go. Like, I was just looking at all like just the very early ownership, and it's just shocking to see the guys with high numbers next to their name and the guys with low numbers next to their name. So the only 4 guys from 75 to 8,000 right now that project in double digits: Wolf, Answer, Im, and Harris English. And we have Horschel, Fowler, Spieth, Woodland, Siwoo Kim, Kisner, Champ, Louis, Lowry, all in that range. And the Todd father is like 1% owned. Like, it feels like if you're going to do an ownership pivot anywhere this week on the slate, it's this range. Like, just avoid the chalk and go with the higher end talent.
This is what I was talking about off the start, why I love this range. Like, why is Siwoo Kim projecting for single digit ownership? The dude was T3 last week. He's been beast moding tee to green and approach shots. Why are people out on him here? I don't understand. It's not like this isn't a player who has beaten, roasted elite fields before. I was actually surprised he was 7,700, and I was really surprised you could get him at like 100 to 1 in the betting odds. This is the first guy I clicked this week. So if you're someone who bet Siwoo Kim last week at 33 to 1, and now you're not going to bet him at like triple the digits after what he did last week, look, he had 1 bad shot on Sunday. That's the only reason he didn't win. That and Jim Herman, went invincibility mode and just was probably going to win that tournament anyways. But man, you can't really fault Siwoo for what he did last week. Really surprising. I really like him. The potential here. Look, it's still Siwoo. I mean, he could go revert back to having like a Siwoo week, and I guess that's part of why people are scared. But dude's made 7 cuts in a row. T3 at the PGA, like I said, I mean, consistent with the tee to green all week. I absolutely love his upside for this course too. I think it benefits an aggressive player like Siwoo. These drivable par 4s. Dude is not going to not hit driver here. So really like him as a play. Love him as a pivot in this range if he's going to be under 10%.
Yeah, I have him around like 7% right now. And I think that's just, I'm looking at Fantasy National and their ownership projections. And I think it's probably the influence that when you rate him out, like he rates very highly in the stats that I'm looking at since the restart. He's like 16th in this field overall. Harris English is actually 12th. I'm not going to use Harris English. Why would I do that? Doc Redman at $7,400. He's 8th. Harold Varner, 18th. I actually think I'm going to use Harold Varner this week. The guy is great on long approaches. Like, get him from 150, 175, or 200 plus. That's his jam. And, I mean, he's probably not going to chip in a bunch of times like he did last week, but generally, the driver is very good. The approach is really good. Why not roll with Big Harry V?
Dude, Big Harry V just about won this event last year. I mean, he can definitely compete again. And at 7,400, Not a player you necessarily need to win, obviously. I mean, I don't think people need me to tell you that, but agree. This is kind of his jam, and I'm interested in Doc Redman a little bit in this range too. I think, again, it just feels like people are just ready to just jump off all the players who played well at the Wyndham last week. I think there's actually a little bit of correlation between that course and this course. I'm not saying they're directly the same, but definitely like you need to putt a little bit better here. The around the green game, I think, is a little bit more emphasis at TPC Boston, and it's a more of a driver heavy course, sure, but you still need it's still a big approach thing where guys are hitting their long irons well. There was quite a few long par fours in play at the Wyndham last week, so realistically, like guys who did well there shouldn't just fall off the map here. It's not like this is like going to be a U.S. Open setup or anything. It's still going to be a bit of a score fest. I think it played as the 37th easiest venue in 2018. So I'm in on Varner too. I think, again, just another good pivot down here. That this is definitely a range where I agree 100%. Like if someone's getting chalky, there's so many places you can go with similar upside. So Varner definitely down there. A player I had circled, and Benny Ann for kind of similar reasons.
Oh boy.
Another guy who's just playing well through the bag. I don't know if he's going to bring the same putter we saw at PGA Championship, but it is nice to see he's gained multiple strokes putting in each of his last two starts. So
for me in that lower sevens, like I said, you got Varner. I have Henley and Neiman all starred right now. Should I be taking a harder look at like Phil or Bubba?
Phil's interesting. I just, it's hard for me to click on Phil because it's just like something clicks in my mind. It's like, oh, he's 50 now. You shouldn't play him.
Well, it's weird because I've been using Phil a lot recently.
Yeah.
And he just makes so many birdies.
No, absolutely. And this is a course he loves. I mean, this is one of the venues, his favorite venues. I mean, he's come out and said he absolutely loves the changes and stuff like that when they redesigned the course. He won here the first year after like the Gil Hans or whatever redesign. So it is the only problem with Phil is, like you said, I mean, I really like Henley, obviously. I mean, people who know me, no shock there, but he's playing really, really good golf right now. Not just his approaches around the green is really coming together for him too. So did putt well last week. I probably slightly like the upside there, but Phil is definitely a player I'd circled in this range as well. It just comes down to like HV3 and Mickelson, Henley. I mean, these are all players I kind of want to play. So ranking wise, I would probably put Henley at the top of the list for me. Again, I just feel like complete gameness. He's got it going right now, but Phil, Benny, and HV3, all kind of birdie machines that I would definitely not feel bad playing two of these guys in the GBP lineup. Should get lower ownership on all of them realistically. So
by the numbers, since over the last 2 months of tournaments and all the rounds that you can include in there, the best per the numbers in ranking wise, Henley, Redman, Varner, Ryan Palmer, and Dylan Fratelli are your guys. If you just want to go strictly by the numbers. And like, I don't know what to do with Ryan Palmer. Like, he keeps making cuts. That's good news. But with 125 players in the field this week, a higher percentage of the field is going to make the cut than we've seen recently.
Yeah, Ryan Palmer is one of those guys who I rarely play Ryan Palmer, but I always seem to regret not playing him. Like, obviously he has, just because he pops with really good weeks with those irons sometimes. And it's like, oh, why wasn't Ryan Palmer on my radar? And it almost feels like it's setting up as another week like that. I mean, we talked about HV3, but I mean, Palmer's obviously like a really good iron player. You would think that with emphasis on lying irons and stuff like that he could definitely come into focus here. But it is again, another week where you kind of got to get the putter firing, and upside wise, probably would almost rather just go down to Benny. I just feel like Benny's probably, if everything comes together for him, has a better shot at winning, has better win equity. And I know that's crazy saying that, but I mean, obviously we're also talking about Ryan Palmer, who puts himself in position a lot, but rarely comes through with the win. So he's a player. I mean, again, it's this range is chock full of guys I kind of am interested in. You can't play everyone. Would I mix Ryan Palmer into like a 100 lineups or something? Yeah, I'd have no problem doing that. But ranking wise, he would probably come out like 4th or 5th for me of those guys we talked about.
6K guys, you probably don't need to go this low with some of the ways that we've talked about. Like, hey, that 8K range in lower nines is super congested with good talent, that if you just wanted to build your balance lineup that way, you could do it. If you want to play the Bryson JT lineup, then you're going to have to go down in this range. So I like Kevin Na, because I love Kevin Na always, $6,800. Norlander, I don't care how chalky he gets, $6,600. I like the Gooch at 65. And Seb Straka rates out really well for this course. He could not drive the ball for shit at Wyndham, but I think he can get it back on track here. He's generally a really good driver of the ball, and he's really good with his long irons. Like, he's really good from 175 plus. Like, just to look at him versus the field down here, when you have Seb Straka 6,300, first in this field in proximity from beyond 200 yards since the restart, fifth from 175 to 200 yards as well. He's been putting all right. He can make some eagles. There are eagleable holes at this course. Just get the driver going, and he should be good. And if a higher percentage of players are going to make the cut, I don't mind rolling the dice on someone like him.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't have to go below 7K this week, but the good news is it feels like anyone below here is going to be super low owned, which is can be nice, especially if you're going with some chalky players up top. So Straka is just he's all or nothing, right? Like he when he gets going, I mean, he's very much Ryan Palmer-esque. Like, he will just get himself in the mix, and he's so much cheaper than a guy like Ryan Palmer. So I definitely understand the attraction there. I might have to check him out a little bit more because he's like the second person who's told me to play Seb Straka. So I obviously he's been around for a year and a bit, but the guy can just beast tee to green. So definitely as a GPP pick, he stands out there. Cam Davis is probably the other name that stands out. A guy who can make a ton of birdies, played well last week at the Wyndham, and he's kind of hit or miss too. But he's been really consistent. We saw consistency from him early in the season too. So might be an interesting play. Again, the nice thing is, even though we're talking about these players and they kind of stick out for us, I don't think any of these guys will crack 5%. So
I would say that Norlander is the only one that could potentially push double digits, unless you go to the top and people gravitate towards, I don't know, Corey Connors would be the one for me. Like, it's weird that no one uses Corey Connors anymore. It feels like a pretty good Corey Connors course. I guess if chipping and putting come into it, it's not. But ball striking wise, if you're going to use Ben Ann, you may as well just use Corey Connors too.
Yeah, and he's cheaper. So this is definitely a spot where you could get back on him. Again, it's nice because Corey Connors has been like uber chalk at points, especially since the restart. So again, just buy low, people. I mean, Brendan Steele, I guess, could get some ownership here, but
Brendan Steele sucks at this course for whatever reason.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. Okay. So he needs to miss the cut, take his time off, so we can go win at Silverado in like 3 weeks.
That's true, right? Yeah, the Brendan Steele Open is vastly approaching here. Got to get that win in. What will he be for that event? Like 14-1. But I just bring him up because he's a player I targeted at the PGA and he came through. But obviously haven't put a ton of thought into him if I don't even know what his course history is. So
he has come. He missed the cut. 56th, 72nd, 44th, 50th, and 20th, dating back to 2013. Like, no, not even one pop from him.
Look, I don't need many reasons not to play Brendan Steele, so that's more than enough. I actually am in on Kevin Na this week. And I remember the last time we did the show, I think we had a discussion about Kevin Na. And I said I hadn't even thought about him all year. And you either play Kevin Na every week or you don't. But here's my argument on Kevin Na. Dude, okay, we know he's got a wonky back. And he's kind of been resting all season. But also know that Kevin Na is one of those guys. He likes cash. He likes to get those points. And this is cash season, right? Like this is when he's going to get that epidural pad or whatever they put in there and just get going for 3 weeks. I think it makes a lot of sense this week. I really do feel like, again, if he's going to be committed for like a good 3 event stretch, this is it. Going to try and get that East Lake position. That's kind of where Kevin Na is at his career. I mean, getting to East Lake, a top 30, gets in all the majors. I know he's up there in the world rankings now, but still, like that's a big thing for a veteran like Kevin Na. So I think I'm definitely going to be in. This is I'm going to pull the trigger and get me some Kevin Na exposure. I did bet him too at whatever odds he was at, 200
200-1 is what I got him at.
Yeah, I might have been 200. I can't remember off. I just clicked it like I do.
The missed cuts and like it's mainly the withdrawals. Like if you play Kevin Na, you get what you deserve when he withdraws. It's happened to me like 3 times But
Sure.
but then he rebounds with like a top 5 at like 1% ownership. It's like, all right, I probably wasn't going to win the week he withdrew anyway. So if I can use him and no one else has him and he pops, we're good to go. He's had some success at this tournament before. He's still hitting his irons incredibly well. He didn't play well at the PGA Championship. A lot of guys didn't play well at the PGA Championship. That's no big deal to me. But he missed the cut. That was his last event. And he had 2 top 10s and 3 starts before that and was playing well at St. Jude until like the final day. The driving has flipped itself back to its normal shittiness, but the irons are up, the putting's back up. We're on bent. That's his preferred surface. He's someone who can win at this price point. And there are very few guys in this field you can actually say that about. Now, he probably has the highest likelihood to score 0 points because he withdraws before the first tee. That's on the table too. But these are the sort of high variance guys that I really like. Like I can talk about Norlander or Cam Davis or Seb Straka. Like Na is just on a different level than these guys. He's like a top 30 player in the world. And if I had to quiz you on when was the last time that Kevin Na missed consecutive cuts on the PGA Tour was?
Ooh. Yeah, he doesn't miss a lot of cuts. At least he doesn't. Again, this is kind of part of the reason why I like 2015.
18. He missed at the RBC Heritage and the Valero Texas Open in April. And before that, you'd have to go back to the API and Masters in 2017. So it's been like 2 years. So now watch him miss 2 consecutive cuts. But either way, I just think that his talent versus the price, when you look at all of the players down in this range, it's him. Like, he's the guy.
Absolutely. I mean, you can make the world golf rankings, you can make kind of everything. But I mean, again, I really feel like he's set himself up for this part of the season. This is why he's resting his back, so he can go all in on the playoffs and then majors and stuff like that. This is a big part of the season. He's pretty much, he's in a good position and very much his season is almost like Tiger. I mean, he's setting himself up. He's got to win. You know, he's coming in here in an okay ranking, but he's rested. And this is when he wants to play like 2 or 3 events in a row. So I think this is a good time to take a shot on Kevin Na, obviously. And this is coming from someone, again, who hasn't had a thought about Kevin Na all season just because I don't want to deal with that, withdraw. What is he going to play? Is he not going to play headaches? So I'm definitely in on him. I also say this. I mean, I think Jason Kokrak, just below him, has a lot of the same similarities. A player who can pop has like a better chance of really coming inside like the top 5 for you than most of these players we're talking about. Like a better chance of like a Norlander or someone like that. And he played pretty well last week. But Na will probably be my guy here.
So the 2, maybe 3 guys in the lower 7s, and we just kind of glossed over them, just because I know that 2 of them no one is going to own. And they actually rate out incredibly well for their overall skill set. One, I only mention this because I got like 8 separate tweets from people like, I will never play Ryan Moore ever again. He missed a cut on me. He hits his long irons really well. Like, he used to be like a wedge guy. He's hitting his long irons really well. And like, he's someone who sneaky gets hot during the FedEx Cup playoffs. And the other one is Chez Reavie. He also missed the cut last week, but he didn't play well at the PGA Championship. He missed the cut at Wyndham. Before that, he was fucking great.
Do people not know not to play Ryan Moore when he's chalky, Pat? Like, is that not a thing? Like, should we be tweeting that out more? Dude, of course you don't play Ryan Moore when he's like 20% owned and everyone's like, oh, it's Ryan Moore week. I'm going to bet him and everything. He's going to win. No, this is when you get on Ryan Moore when everyone hates him. He's like Justin Rose, man. I mean, 7,100. I agree. He's looking pretty solid. Look, at the Wyndham, it was hit or miss whether the putter and chipping was going to show up. And you really obviously need to make all your putts at the Wyndham, but the tee to green game is there. It's a little bit tougher test. Yeah, why not? I almost forgot he was in this field, to be honest, but ratings wise, he does. I know he showed up in a couple of the things I ran on Fantasy National as well. I used that. So interesting play. I had Noren circled down here. I really like the way his around the green and obviously just the putting that he can bring, but Ryan Moore is definitely probably a player you get. You might even get like half ownership on Moore compared to Noren. So Chez Reavie, the dude who I just don't give enough credit to be honest. Like I'm always like, do I really want to play Chez Reavie? He's kind of like Zach Johnson-esque, and I just hate playing those guys, but he's such a solid player, does pop up in the playoffs. So Moore, Reavie, I'm probably playing more just because again, I like to play the players who are way down in sentiment and stuff like that. But Chez probably the better overall player right now.
I'm also going to use Luke List, I think, at $6,700. Do you know?
obviously you're going to play Luke List.
Did you know that the 2 worst putting events of his career have actually been the last 2 weeks?
He was really bad.
He lost 7.5 strokes at the PGA Championship and was like top 5 in tee to green. And then and then I'm thinking 7.5. No one could lose that many. Like even if he loses 2 at the Wyndham, he's going to be fine. And what does he do at the Wyndham? He loses 7.5 on the greens.
I think it was Feinberg who tweeted out one of his putting. Like he like 3 putted from like 5 feet or something. Like it was embarrassing.
But the tee to green is back. List went through this period where he was a shitty putter, but he was like, when you would punch him into Fantasy National or any sort of stat model, this guy hits the shit out of the ball, like at an elite level. And then he started popping up with top 10s and everything like that because the putting wasn't a complete atrocity. And then he lost his swing, he lost his irons, he couldn't chip anymore, and he was legit bad. But he won on the Corn Ferry 3 months ago, and he's been good tee to green. For DraftKings purposes, he's going to make birdies, even though he can't putt, which is scary to think about if he just gained a stroke putting for a week. What would happen then?
Probably the same thing that happened to Russell Henley last week is he got himself inside the top 10 or whatever. Look, I've kind of just erased Luke List from my memory after the last weekend because he ruined, like I said, my best 6 of 6 lineup. But the dude he's team no putt, Pat. I mean, he's a great ball striker. He's very attractive play for people like us who just pops out tee to green. And you're right. I mean, he's definitely playing good golf. I mean, he's a player, won a professional golf tournament less than 2 months ago. So definitely some credits to that theory. I wouldn't shock me if he showed up at some point in these next 2 events with a really good result. So I don't know if it'll be here. I don't like it as much here maybe as next week because again, does seem like an event where you really need to gain strokes putting to get yourself inside that top 10, maybe even multiple strokes. So that's just the way that recent events here played out. It doesn't mean it's going to play out this year, but I'm probably okay fading Luke List at this price. Like I said, maybe go up to Kokrak and I'm definitely have a piece of knob, but statistically wise, yeah, you're right. I mean, Luke List is kind of back. So nice to see.
We can make a wager. We can go List versus Kokrak, more DraftKings points.
Okay. That's a good one.
Right.
Those are 2 guys who, will probably miss their fair share of putts.
They'll probably both miss the cut.
Yeah, probably. They'll probably both miss finish T60 or something because they'll lose 7 strokes each on the weekend. Buddy.
I think Feinberg played a Denny McCarthy versus Luke List round 4 matchup. How can you be Denny McCarthy and have the 1 week of your life where you hit your irons well? He's actually gained on approach in 3 consecutive weeks. Should we be playing Denny McCarthy? Is he heating up?
I don't know, man. I mean, did he lead the field in approaches last week?
He gained 7 strokes on approach. I assume that had to be top 3, if not the best. I didn't actually see how it turned out. I can look that up for you right now. Let's see. First in approach, Denny McCarthy, 7 strokes. Siwoo was second. Zach Johnson, Jim Herman, Kevin Kisner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's insane that he didn't he obviously had a good week, but when Denny McCarthy gains strokes and approaches, I mean, man, you kind of expect he's going to factor into the win, but maybe you should go back. I don't know. It's a really good question. I know he popped up in all the winning lineups last week. So kudos to people who just took a shot on him there. Obviously, I think it was a good event to take a shot on him. Could it carry over? I have no idea. I mean, this is a player who just popped out of nowhere with a good ball striking week. So I'll probably just play like Kokrak or like you play List and just be like, oh, he's the tee to green dude. But no, I guess the answer is no. I'm not playing Denny McCarthy. If he shows up again, I'll probably give him a harder look. But no.
Before this current stretch, which doesn't involve a bunch of 3M, PGA Championship, and the Wyndham, he's gained strokes on approach in 3 consecutive events. He has never done that before in his career.
And again, kudos to the people who saw this because obviously Denny McCarthy is a dude I did not dive into enough last week, and the people who put in the winning lineups basically all had a sub 6% owned Denny McCarthy. Obviously, we're going up a class in field, and it does kind of feel like, again, is he going to gain 7 strokes on approaches again?
No.
Not,
But let's say he gains like 2 on approach. Like he only gained 3.8 strokes putting last week. That's like a bad week for him. So he's going to gain like 11 this week. It'll be fine.
It's probably true. And again, it maybe even rates out as like a better just like cash game play, because if you get even just like a gain stroke approach, he's probably going to make the cut. So I still like the upside with Kokrak and Na a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, again, I wouldn't fault anyone for going back to this guy just because we know the profile player is. We know the putter can obviously pop off, and even if the approaches regress a little bit, which quite frankly they probably will, he'll still probably have a really good chance at the top 20. So definitely get that argument. Yeah, and I mean, going down here, just looking, I'm just seeing if there's any other players similar. I mean, Bud Cauley popped off with a good putting week last week.
I would say that the only one, because he actually rates out really well, I just can't get there with him, is Richie Werenski.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I just don't know what to do with him, so I'm just not going to use him.
Yeah,
I'm going to use the Gooch instead.
Yeah, and I think the Gooch rates out better for an elite field like this. I mean, Werenski is a guy who he doesn't typically do that great in like these bigger events. I mean, when you get him in like the Barbasol or the Barracuda, yeah, I mean, turns into Tiger Woods or whatever. But at these more elite field events, a guy who's just coming off his first win, I would much rather go back to Taylor Gooch, whose approach game is really looks like he's coming together and has the tee to green game to kind of challenge or at least get himself inside the top 20 here. So agreed there. Werenski is interesting. I'm not going to touch Patrick Rogers anymore. We're done there for the season. Hoagie maybe is a guy you could think about. I mean, he played obviously well in Spurs. I was kind of interested in him coming off the PGA Championship, and then I never really got to him last week. Obviously, he had like a poor weekend, but he's pretty good form as well.
Yeah. So my final thoughts on this, like in terms of talking it through with you, that I think that the best tournament pivots this week, whether they play well or not, I have no idea. But it looks like Dustin from the high end, Webb from the next level, and then Justin Rose and or Matthew Fitzpatrick from the 8K range.
I would say I definitely like Webb. I'm completely out on Dustin this week. Again, I don't like the price increase. The fact he's more higher owned than Morikawa. So I'll be all about Bryce in that top range. Definitely like the Webb pivot. I'll eat the day chalk. Haven't decided in the 8K range who, like, I might just fade that entire range, to be honest, because I really like going down to the 7K range. Woo, Louis, obviously. And I might even throw someone like Rose in there as well. So outside of Finau, like the 8K range, and maybe Casey, the 8K range might be more of a fade range for me. I really just like those pivots in the 7K range.
All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Please rate and review the audio podcast 5 stars. Whether you're watching the video or the audio, please subscribe to the Mayo Media Network. You can find that sub link in the description of this video or podcast. Ulrich, you can find at DK Nation at the Fantasy Grind. Where else can people check out your work these days?
Yeah, have betting previews up on linemovement.com. Definitely check that out. Awesome-o. Do a weekly review show on Mondays and have an article up there. So do please check those out. But you can just check me out on Twitter at the Fantasy Grind. I'll post all those eventually, and you can leave your comments or your critiques below.
All right. Remember to smash the like button for the video. Leave your comments in the comment section. Your favorite sleeper on DraftKings this week. Sounds like the Gooch might be my guy. Going at the Gooch. Maybe Denny McCarthy. Oh, hi, Denny. We'll figure that out later on, though. Wednesday show, I'll have my betting preview, final card. I've kind of said who I like already, but I'll hammer that down, top 20s. I don't know if I'm going to play first round leaders this week. We'll see how that ends up going. I might change my mind overnight after I do some more research. I'll have some more football stuff coming this week, UFC stuff, obviously, with Cody and Paul. Yeah, it's just the normal stuff is going on, and we got a ton of football going on, so you don't want to miss it. It's a sub to the Mayo Media Network. Also, fantasynational.com/Mayo gets you out there 20% off. Check that out. Good luck this week. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!